Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to GEEXX Watches. Today I want to talk about Blue Eye Samurai. There's a streaming show on Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. Netflix? It's on Netflix, probably. This is an animated show, 8 episodes. It's fictional, taking place during Japan's Edo period. For those who are not familiar with Japanese history, in 1600s, Japan closed its borders completely. Like contact with other countries and other people was illegal, basically. They would not allow any influence of any kind. It lasted roughly 250 years. Blue Eye Samurai takes place during the Edo period, this time when Japan was locked down. Japan is very xenophobic, fairly racist, very much against influences from outside. Nothing exemplifies this more than the Edo period. This is fictional. It does contain some historic events, but it takes some liberties with that historical accuracy. Main character is Mizu, the person in the center. At the time that the country was closed down, according to this story, there were 4 white men in the country. Mizu is a half-breed, which was considered an abomination by Japanese culture at the time, and for a very long time afterwards. Half-breeds were not treated well. Mizu grew up in poverty, ridiculed, abused, but looked down upon. Mizu did not have a happy upbringing in a great many ways. And Mizu is not happy being an outcast half-breed, regarded as a monster by many of the people that they are forced to deal with. So, Mizu was on a quest to find the people who potentially could be their father and speak with them with a sword, so to speak. The character of Mizu is very complicated, or complex, let's say. You can understand how bitter and angry they are, and Mizu makes some harsh decisions during the course of the show. The other, rounding out the cast, is Ringo, someone Mizu picks up along the way. Ringo was born without hands, so Japanese were also very critical of anyone who had any physical defects. He is also ridiculed and looked down upon. But Ringo sees Mizu as someone who's overcome their disabilities to become something better. So Ringo attaches himself to Mizu. There is Taigen, a samurai who considers himself disgraced because Mizu beat him in combat and humiliated him. So Taigen wants a rematch. Another reason he wants a rematch is because being defeated has cost him his marriage to a wealthy and noble woman named Kemi. Kemi is a spoiled princess, very spoiled, very used to getting her own way. She's not happy that her fiance has been disgraced, and her father is now trying to marry her off to someone else to get a better marriage. Women were not treated well in Edo Japan. Women were property. They didn't have rights of their own. They had very few choices in life. Marriages were usually arranged by your parents, and you had no say in the matter. Mizu had convinced her father to allow her to marry Taigen, her preferred choice. But when Taigen was disgraced, her father canceled the marriage and got her to marry someone else. That's the main. Those 4 characters, the main cast. There was some secondary cast: Mizu's father, Mizu's tutor. There is the old blind swordsmith who took Kemi's tutor, Kemi's father. I think I screwed that up, but Mizu was taken in by a old blind swordsmith who, because they were blind, couldn't tell that Mizu was a half-breed. Other secondary characters pop up here and there throughout the course. There was also the villains of the story. There is the one white person we see who is in league with someone else who are engaging in illegal activities in the country. And obviously, Mizu is on their way to confront them. He's the one person who could potentially be Mizu's father that we see. This is a good story. I really, really like this. It's not quite as good as Arcane, primarily because, in my opinion, the character of Kemi, the spoiled princess, she just annoyed the hell out of me. I really couldn't see why she was so important to be kept in. I mean, yeah, she's related to the story. You know, her and Taigen have this thing going on. Taigen has this rivalry with Mizu. So you can see why she's part of the story, but I think she took up, in my opinion, too much of the narrative. And I just found her just trying to manipulate people and getting her own way. I found it really, really aggravating. As opposed to Arcane, which I found nothing aggravating with at all. But honestly, Kemi is the only part of this thing that annoyed me. If it wasn't for her, this is near perfection. I think some of the people who worked on Arcane also worked on Blue Eye Samurai, so that would explain why it's so good. The animation's not quite as excellent as Arcane, but damn, it's still pretty good. There is, for those who are interested and haven't watched it yet, this is graphic. There is violence, blood, gore, nudity, profanity, and sex. This is R-rated, big time, for both sex and violence and language. So be prepared for that. I was not prepared for that the first time. And part of the reason I was not prepared for that is because both of my daughters recommended this to me. They both did. So having your daughters recommend something that contains some hefty sex scenes for someone of my generation is a bit uncomfortable, I have to admit. I'm glad they did recommend it to me, but it does make it awkward to talk about it a little bit with them, to share my love of it with them. But yeah, this is just so much fun to watch. If you've watched my review of Arcane, you know how much I love good animation, and this is right up there. This is really, really good. And I said it messes with historical accuracy. From little I do know about the Japanese Edo period, I think it does a good representation of it as far as culturally. I'm not 100% sure that I'm not a historian by nature. This is just me absorbing things from what I've read. I read some manga that took place in the same, in the Edo period, Lone Wolf and Cub. So what I know of the Japanese Edo period is based on manga and anime and movies. So from what little I know, it seems historic. It seems to at least portray the culture of the time as accurate. But take that with a grain of salt, because I'm not a professional historian. Barely an amateur one. I wasn't. There will be another season, so I wasn't quite happy with the way that the final episode ended. Not because it was bad. I wanted something different to happen. I was kind of looking forward to, I think this is how the story is going to resolve itself for this season, and it didn't resolve itself the way I anticipated it to. So I would have been happier if something else had happened. So, I'm not faulting the writing. I think that's me personally. Talking about it with my daughters, they agree with me. They wanted something else to happen. So, kind of thing there, maybe. But man, the characters are just so good. One of the things I do like about it is that the people in the film, I won't say there's no villains, but there are no heroes either. There are definitely villains. The people who are in this film are villainous, are definitely villains. There are a few people in this show that have nothing whatsoever to recommend them. They are very, very bad people. But as far as the heroes, the people we're supposed to like, they're not really heroes. They all have dark moments in them. The only truly wholesome character is Ringo, the handless assistant, the handless apprentice. Ringo is pure and wholesome. I love Ringo. I really do. He's so optimistic and happy and joyful. But the other characters, Mizu has moments of both honor and and darkness, and so does Taigen, and so does Mizu. Everyone, all the other characters do. They all have moments of which they could be make choices that are harsh and cruel and potentially unjust. But they're done in such a way that you can at least understand why they're making these decisions, and the culture that they live in, especially the women in the story, the women who have so little agency in their lives in this time and culture. They make harsh decisions. They make, because it's the only decisions they have that they're allowed for themselves. Man, this is so good. I cannot wait for season 2. Even with my few criticisms, this is still one of the things I'm going to recommend as an A+. It really is. It's really, really good. The writing is done so well. The voice acting is done well. They had a lot of Asian voice actors too, which is unsurprising for a film that takes place in Edo, Japan. But I wound up looking up who they were, and I recognized a lot of the faces. I recognized one of the names, well, two of the names. George Takei plays Kemi's tutor. And Kenneth Branagh plays the white villain, whose name I've been drawing a blank on since the start, for which I apologize. But there's George Watanabe, who I recognize the name and I recognize the face of the actor too. But looking at the other actors, didn't always recognize their names. If I pulled up their faces in IMDb and stuff, I recognize them from, previously watching other films with other Asian actors in them. So, great cast, great writing, great animation, great art direction. Just really, this is probably one of the better things I've watched. It's only February. Better things I've watched this year. It's probably one of the best things I've watched since Arcane. And it's another animated feature. But I would highly recommend this in case you can't tell from my 12-minute dissertation of this. And I'm done. So, as always, thanks for watching. As always, if you like my stuff, that makes me uncomfortable. And until next time, good hunting.